The Tales of the Wise Old Monkey. Once upon a time, deep within the heart of an ancient forest, lived a wise old monkey named Baba. His fur was speckled with silver, his eyes gleamed with the wisdom of ages, and his back was slightly bent with the weight of years. Baba was respected by all the creatures of the forest, from the smallest ant to the grandest tree. He had lived through many seasons, seen the forest change, and had countless stories to share. Every evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees and the moon began to rise, the younger monkeys would gather around Baba. They would sit in a circle at the base of an ancient banyan tree, eager to hear the old monkey's tales of adventures, mischief, and life in the forest. Baba would settle himself comfortably on a branch, his tail curling lazily around the trunk of the tree, and the young ones would listen with wide, sparkling eyes. One such evening, as the forest hummed with the sounds of crickets and rustling leaves, Baba began his tale. His voice was soft, yet carried the weight of years, rich with the magic of the forest. "Come close, my little ones," Baba called. "Tonight, I will tell you the story of the Great Flood, a time when our forest was swallowed by water, and how we survived." The young monkeys shuffled closer, their faces lighting up with curiosity. Baba's stories were never just tales. They were lessons, full of wisdom and deep understanding of the natural world. "It was many moons ago," Baba began, "when the forest was not as we see it today. Back then, the trees were taller, the rivers wider, and the animals lived in harmony. The sky was often a clear blue, and the stars sparkled like diamonds in the night. But then, one year, something changed. There was no rain for months. The rivers shrank, the leaves withered, and the air grew dry. The animals became restless, and whispers of worry spread like wildfire. The elders, like me, could feel something was wrong. The young monkeys sat up straighter, their eyes wide with anticipation. Then, one night, the sky turned dark, and the winds began to howl. I remember it well," Baba continued. "The trees groaned and swayed, the animals stirred uneasily, and the ground beneath our feet seemed to tremble. The first raindrops fell, heavy and cold, but no one thought it would be anything unusual. We had seen rainstorms before, but this time, the rain kept coming, pouring down in sheets, turning the earth to mud. At first, it felt like a relief. The dry earth drank up the rain, and we thought it was over. But it wasn't. The rain fell harder and harder, and the rivers swelled. Within hours, the water began to rise, first ankle-deep, then knee-deep, and soon, it was up to our waists. The entire forest seemed to be drowning. The young monkeys gasped, their imaginations running wild. We tried to climb higher," Baba said, his voice grave. "We scrambled up the tallest trees, but the water kept rising. By the time the floodwaters reached the branches, we realized we were in great danger. The river had burst its banks, and the flood had taken over the entire forest. Can you imagine, little ones, the fear we felt?" Baba asked, his voice softening. "Our homes were flooded, our food was washed away, and the sky was thick with storm clouds. But do you know what happened next? It was the strength of the forest itself that saved us." The young monkeys looked at each other, confused. "The strength of the forest, Baba?" one of them asked. "Yes," Baba replied, nodding slowly. "The forest has a spirit, you see. It lives and breathes, just like we do. When the floodwaters rose higher, the trees knew what to do. They began to bend, their roots reaching deep into the earth, pulling the soil together to hold the water back. The vines grew long and strong, winding together to create bridges and pathways for us to cross." Baba paused, his eyes distant as he remembered the events of that long-ago time. "We survived because we did not face the flood alone. The forest helped us, and we helped each other. The birds flew to higher ground, the deer guided the young ones, and the elders stayed close to the young, offering guidance and protection. The animals worked together in ways we had never done before." The young monkeys were silent, lost in the gravity of Baba's words. After a moment, one of the older monkeys spoke up. "What happened to the forest, Baba? Did it survive the flood?" Baba smiled faintly, his eyes twinkling. "Of course, it did. The forest is old and wise. It has seen many seasons, many floods, many fires. It knows how to recover." After the waters finally receded, the trees stood tall again, the flowers bloomed, and the animals returned to their homes. "But," Baba added, his voice turning serious again, "we had learned an important lesson, that the forest is not just a place we live in. It is a living, breathing part of us. When the forest thrives, we thrive. And when we take care of the forest, it will take care of us." The young monkeys murmured in agreement, their minds processing Baba's words. After a few moments, Baba continued, eager to share more. Let me tell you another story, one about the storm that almost destroyed our community, Baba said. It happened many, many years ago, before the flood. The young monkeys leaned in even closer, their curiosity piqued. It was a storm like none other, Baba said, his tone darkening. It came without warning, a tempest that raged for 3 days and nights. The winds howled like the cries of 1,000 animals, and the rain came in sheets, cutting through the air like sharp knives. We had all taken shelter in the trees, holding on tightly as the storm raged around us. But there was one young monkey, a mischievous one named Kiko, who decided he could outrun the storm. He was always quick on his feet, always thinking he was invincible. Baba chuckled softly, remembering the young monkey's stubbornness. Kiko dashed through the storm, leaping from tree to tree, daring the winds to catch him. But the storm was too strong. It knocked him from the branches, and he fell, straight into the floodwaters below. The young monkeys gasped in horror. "Don't worry," Baba said, holding up a paw. Kiko was strong and smart. He managed to cling to a branch until the storm passed. But when he came back to us, drenched and exhausted, he was different. He had learned the hard way that no one, not even the swiftest monkey, can face the forces of nature alone. From that day forward, Baba continued, Kiko was no longer just the fast monkey who could outrun any danger. He became the one who warned the others, who taught the younger monkeys to respect the power of the forest. He realized that the forest is not something we can conquer, but something we must live in harmony with. The young monkeys were deep in thought now, reflecting on the wisdom in Baba's stories. Baba, sensing their quiet contemplation, leaned back against the trunk of the banyan tree and looked up at the stars. "There is one more thing I want to share with you," Baba said softly. "The forest is not just about survival. It is about the balance of life." He glanced down at the young ones, who were now sitting quietly, absorbing his every word. "Do you see how the trees give shelter to the birds and the monkeys? Do you see how the rivers provide life for the creatures who live beside them? Everything in this forest is connected, little ones. The leaves, the flowers, the animals, the wind, everything is part of a greater circle, and we are all a part of it." Baba paused, his voice growing tender. "We must respect the balance. If one part of the circle breaks, the whole forest suffers. But when we work together, we help the circle remain strong. This is a true lesson of the forest, that life is a gift, and we must honor it by caring for all the creatures, great and small." The young monkeys looked around, their hearts swelling with pride. They had always known the forest was special, but now they understood just how deep the connection went. As the night grew darker and the stars glittered above, Baba fell silent for a moment, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. Then, with a soft chuckle, he added, "And that, my little ones, is the story of the forest. It is a story that never ends, for it is always changing, always growing, always teaching." The young monkeys sat in silence, their minds racing with thoughts and questions, but above all, they felt a deep sense of connection to the forest around them. They had learned much from Baba, and they knew they would carry these lessons with them as they grew. The old monkey's eyes twinkled with a quiet satisfaction as he looked down at them. "Now, go on and play. But remember, the forest is always with you. It lives inside you, and you live inside it." And with that, the young monkeys scampered off into the night, their hearts filled with new understanding and appreciation for the world around them, ready to become the guardians of the forest, just as Baba had taught them. The stories would live on, passed down from one generation to the next, for the forest had many more tales to tell. And so, the circle continued.